You know, the past years I've been doing my craft show, I've shared a lot of things with you, but I've never brought you in my kitchen before. And I was looking around in there, and there's a few things in there that I'd like to tell you about. First, there's a couple things here I want to show you, including my new chair. This is one of my Christmas presents that my parents gave me. We call it a back jack. And we used to have one of these in our house. And it's great, because my parents know that I like sitting on the floor. Like when I eat, I rarely sit at the table. I usually just sit on the floor in front of the TV and stuff. It's always hard to get comfortable. But they gave me this, and they gave me a rug to put under it, since it's going to be right on the floor. Maybe it'll last longer. And you kind of have an automatic footrest, and it's very comfortable. So I just wanted to tell you about that. Another thing I wanted to tell you about is these candlestick holders. I got these at a garage sale a couple years ago, and I liked them. They were white and wooden, and they kind of went with my apartment. The thing is, when the candle gets real low, like this one, you know, the candle will quit burning, but the candlestick holder will continue to burn. So since it's wood, it starts on fire. And I didn't know this, and I just learned it by trial and error. So now I have to be very careful when I use them. So these look like they were made like in a woodworking class. And if you ever you want to do a woodworking project, well, wood is not a real good thing to make candlestick holders out of. So I just wanted to tell you about that. Okay, so let's go in the kitchen and get started in there. Okay, my kitchen is very small. And so is my whole apartment, so my kitchen's in proportion to the rest of my apartment. So the first thing I want to talk about is what I've done to utilize the little space in here that I do have. One thing that I did, well, recently this was all remodeled and the kitchen was like moved. And when they moved the kitchen cupboards, this time I had them hang them a little lower than normal. So I'll have extra space on top of the cupboards to put stuff. Because there's a lot of storage space up here, and I needed more room up here instead of down here, because down here it was just kind of wasted. So up here I keep a lot of stuff, and this has been a good place to keep stuff. And then I put this little board here just to help to try to hide some of the stuff up there. And I can take this down, and as you see, it looks a little better with the board up there. And the board could even be higher, but at least the board helps a little. And also by putting the kitchen cupboards lower, it's easier to reach the top shelf of the kitchen cupboards. I also found another spot to stick stuff. It's down here. I've been living in my apartment a few months before I discovered this little secret storage spot. You know, on most ovens in this area, you have a drawer or you have a broiler. Well, I didn't have either of those. It was just nothing there, except I realized I could remove this. And I found a very good place to store stuff. So I immediately filled it with things. And the only thing you have to be careful, because it is underneath the oven, and it does get warm down there, or hot. And I know sometimes if I keep stuff in plastic bags, the plastic will melt a little bit. Now, I know I have one fan who watches my show who's probably cringing at this point. He's a fan who wrote me my very first fan letter, and I'd like to read it to you. I started to do my craft show on Easter Sunday, 1989, and this note is dated October 13th, 1989. So response was slow in the beginning, but since then response has been a little more encouraging. And I don't have his permission to read this. And actually, when I got the letter, I tried to call him and thank him for it and respond to it, but he wasn't listed in the phone book. but I want to read this and you'll see how it applies. Dear Mr. Heskin, I would like to say I enjoy your crafts program immensely. One Sunday afternoon, or one Sunday morning in May, I came across the show and now faithfully get up every Sunday to watch. I especially enjoyed the shows this summer with your family. They were very interesting. I tell you, it would never dawn on me to use an old work boot as a planter, but I really like the tire planter. They are very creative. There is a serious reason for this note, not just to keep accolades on your head. When you returned to New York, you showed the cabinet your father built for the television. It is very nice, and he was wise to leave the back open. The TV gives off a great deal of heat and it requires proper ventilation. It is also for this reason that I think it would be wise not to store anything in the space as you have. My concern is for safety. I would hate to hear of a fire or explosion. That would be terrible.
This just in. My craft show star burned in fire. Details at 11.
I am repeating myself, but I love your show. It is nice to see things a person with no artistic talent like myself can do. I guess that's a compliment. Well, anyway, my point is, if that fan was concerned about keeping stuff behind my TV because of the heat, they'll probably be very concerned about keeping stuff underneath my oven. But I'm careful, and I've been warned, and I appreciate your concern. So let me put this back. Now I also keep stuff in my oven. Let me show you what I have in there. Okay, now in your apartment, you probably have certain bowls that you can only use in the oven. You probably have some that you only use on the table, and you have separate kettles and bowls that you can only use on top of the stove. And that's a lot of bowls to have in a small kitchen like most of us have. Well, look what I did. I got these Corral Corningware bowls. And this can go in the oven. It can go on top of the stove, and it can go, on the table. I can make a Jell-O in this and bring it to a picnic, you know? And I used to have, separate things for all those things too. And then I got this idea, and look how much space it saves me. I can get rid of all those different bowls. And they come in all different sizes. And I had a little trouble finding ones that were all white. I didn't want any little swirl on them, any little color or design. I wanted them all white, which I had a little trouble finding that. And also I had trouble finding one as big as this one. So I wanted one big enough that I could make spaghetti in, boil noodles. And so I had trouble finding one that big. And they come with covers. And the only thing, the company really doesn't recommend using them on top of the stove. And one of the reasons is because they don't have long handles. And they're concerned that if you use it on top of the stove, you might burn yourself because it doesn't have a long handle and you might have an accident. Also, they're not real thick on the bottom like a normal heavy kettle, so you have to stir things like a little bit more. So the bottom doesn't conduct the heat as good as a regular kettle. But I think that the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages, and I just wanted to tell you about those. When I was home this summer, I had my dad make this little shelf for me, which I have here in the corner of my kitchen. And it's above head level, so I don't have to worry about hitting my head on it. And it gives me a little additional storage space. Now, if you had a house in most houses, above the kitchen sink, you have a nice little window right above the sink. And usually outside the window you have like a bird feeder, or you can see into the neighbor's backyard or whatever. So when you're busy washing dishes or in the kitchen at the sink, you can look out and you have something to look at. Well, look at what I have to look at, So to make it a little more interesting, what I do, I put clippings and pictures and things inside on the walls of the insides of my cupboards. And when I'm in the kitchen, I look at them. And it makes it a lot more fun and enjoyable to be in the kitchen. Like, for instance, yesterday, my sister Catherine sent me this postcard. And it's a nice postcard, and I read it, and I looked at it, and what do I do now? Throw it away? No. It's chocolate-covered cherries, and Catherine knows I love chocolate-covered cherries. So I'm going to put this right here, and it's fun to look at while I'm here in the kitchen. And another thing I do, I have, like if I have trouble or if I have trouble spelling a word, if I have to look it up, I'll write down that word, and I'll write it here on the inside of my cupboard, so that I can kind of remember the word or see it like when I'm in the kitchen. So I kind of improve my spelling while I wash dishes. I have some newspaper clippings here I wanted to tell you about. This summer, I was home in North Dakota, and North Dakota celebrated its centennial, and they were putting on a local centennial play. And my father what happened is they called, the casting director, called and asked me if I would be in it, but I wasn't going to be home that long. And I said, well, maybe my dad will be in it. And so they got excited at that idea. They really needed an extra man. And my dad had never been in a play before, not even in high school. But it was a centennial, and he wasn't really involved in any other project, and everyone should help out in the community and do their part. Well, anyway, he ended up doing it. And he'd never been in a play before, and he just had a couple lines. Here's my dad with a couple comments about the play.
I was in a play this summer, and being in the play was kind of interesting. It's the first time I've ever been in a play, and it was kind of fun.
And unfortunately, I never got to see the play, but I guess he enjoyed being in it. Maybe you remember, last spring when I was in North Dakota, actually this is the same trip, I taught Vacation Bible School. They have it like for a week when school gets out. It's like a week-long session. Anyway, I taught 5th and 6th grade girls, and I co-taught the class with one of the pastors, Pastor Joel Westby. And a big part of the day we did crafts. And then, of course, I was on Mr. Craft Show, so of course I was in charge of leading the girls in crafts. And I taught them how to make a little soft sculpture faces that I've demonstrated on this show before. So an article or a picture comes out in the paper. The making of soft sculpture dolls was supervised by Pastor Joel Westby. The reporter came, took a picture, brought the picture back to the office, and just kind of looked at what she thought was maybe happening in the picture and made up her own little, she obviously didn't talk to anyone, because everyone knew it was me making the dolls. And not only did I not get my name or credit, they also cut my head off in the picture. It was probably a bad hair day anyway, so it's just as well. And I thought of writing a letter to the paper, but I thought maybe someone else would speak up and correct the mistake. Like maybe Pastor Joel Westby might mention that that it was Mark Heskin that led the craft session, but no such luck. Anyway, I should take that one down. That one doesn't conjure up any happy feelings. I enjoyed the Partridge Family. And here's a little picture of the Partridge Family from the early years of the Partridge Family. And a friend of mine has a little story about the Partridge Family. Or not actually the whole Partridge Family, but about the little boy. Look at the little boy that played, I can't remember his name right now. I'll remember later. Listen to this story.
I went on this audition that was downtown in Soho, and there was a sign-up sheet for all the people who wanted to be in the movie, and the name right before the last blank spot to sign up was Jeremy Gelbwax. And when I saw the name, I immediately knew that that was the kid that had been on the Partridge Family for the first season. He might have even been the second season, but then they changed actors. So later I was looking around to see, which one could possibly be him, because he was a little different now. And I saw this guy, and he's still little, he's not, he didn't change that much, but he was with this girl, and when he walked away, I said, wasn't that the kid on the Partridge Family? And she said, yes. And she said, I can't believe that anyone would remember that this many years later. And I explained that I never forget a name or a face, and that, I just knew right away who that was.
As long as we were telling this story, I thought to make it more interesting, I would try to call Jeremy. And he was listed in the Manhattan phone book, and I called him, and the number had been disconnected. But it'd be fun. Wouldn't it be fun to have him on my show and talk about his days on the Partridge Family and the real reasons why he left the Partridge Family and find out what he's been up to. So this is a plea to anyone who knows him, or if he's watching or hears about this, please contact me. And you can just give me information over the phone, or if you want to be on my show, it'd be a thrill for me. That would be great. Also in my kitchen, I have a bulletin board, and so I have a lot of things to look at. There's one of my favorite family pictures of my family, and when I was like maybe 6 years old, I like that picture. This Land O'Lakes thing. If you have two pictures of the Land O'Lakes lady, Indian, and if you cut out her knees from the second picture and glue them over her chest, you see the effect you get. But it's really her knees just moved up. Sometimes, instead of putting the stuff on the inside of the cupboards, I went through phases where I'll put it all on the outside, and that's fine too, just depending on how much clutter you like. But on the inside, it really doesn't bother anyone. So, I think we about covered my kitchen. Yeah, well, I'm getting desperate for stuff to do on this show. How am I supposed to come up with new stuff every week? Well, anyway, it's time. Now we're going to move from the kitchen to the bathroom. It's time for a new feature on my craft show. Take a look at this. My hair. Well, I've been cutting my hair for like the past 2 years. And first of all, I'm suffering from a severe case of male pattern baldness. And I think my hair looks best short. Because the thing is, it gets thick and long on the sides, and it'll get thick here, but then in the middle, it's a strip of thin. And then you're tempted to comb it over, and then I think if I keep it real short and thin all around, then it will look better. I can show you a scene from my craft show last spring where my hair was longer, and if you look how puffy it is on the sides and on the corner of my head, and then I don't think that looks good. I think my hair looks best short. So 2 years ago, well, the barbers would never really cut it as short as I wanted it. And so I got up on my nerve, and I used this clipper that's been in our family since my dad used to give me haircuts with this when I was like 3 years old, and maybe you remember getting home haircuts with an old clipper too. And it comes with different attachments, and this is what I use to cut my hair. I have a friend who made a painting to put in his apartment. He painted it himself, and he thinks it's really good. And people come over and they say, "Oh, nice painting. Did you do that yourself?" Well, at least with my hair, no one says, "Oh, Mark, nice haircut. Did you do that yourself?" When they start saying that, I'll know I'm in trouble. Okay, I have the biggest attachment on the clipper. If you have a clipper like this, and if you're having trouble getting it to work, sometimes all it needs is like a little WD-40, a little oil, and then if it's not cutting good, try a little of that. So I'm going to plug this in. If I open the mirror, there, now you can see me, right? Okay, here we go. And I really won't be able to talk to you much when this is on. We'll see how it goes. Now I'll do this side. It's cutting pretty good today. Okay, I'm basically done. I used to have a friend like help me with the back here, but now I use this mirror, and then I can see the back, and then I can do it myself. So I do the whole thing myself, and there's hair everywhere. It's a big mess. Actually, I'm going to take a shower, and actually that will help me to, the hair will look better after it's shampooed, right? And also it'll help me remove the hair from my body too. So we'll catch you after the shower, then we'll see, then it'll look really great after that, I guess. Okay. Well, this is how it looks wet. I guess the good thing about, another good thing about keeping your hair short is that it doesn't take long to dry. Okay. What do you think? Now you see, now it's short all over, so it doesn't look so thin right in the middle. So that's how I cut my hair. So, I made it through another episode of my craft show. So thanks for tuning in. You know, if ever you do any craft projects at home, and if you want to send me a photograph of your work, I could show it here on the air. So keep that in mind. And now, after the closing credits, if we have a couple of minutes left, I'm going to show you some scenes from some other episodes of my craft show. So this has been Mark Heskin, and this is my craft show. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. North Dakota on one of my father's 40-acre wheat fields. Using this pink marker, I made a pink border around the card. Then using this glitter.
You know that it's spring in North Dakota when you see the rhubarb plants coming up. Rhubarb is always pulled and not cut, and we want to wash off all spray and all the bugs. Usually there isn't any dirt on it, it's just that we want it clean and free from bugs.
Hi, my name is Chad Corson. This is my slip and slide I got for my birthday. Now I'd like to show you how it looks today.